Everybody, we got a great show lined up for you today. I'm
Nice to see
Michael.
you, Michael.
I know. Well, the viewers are probably happy to hear our voices. It's been a couple of weeks, actually.
Right, I know.
You know, but we're back. We're finally back. I'm here with Xavier, and we're here on a very hot and humid,
Muggy day. Well,
muggy day.
We were away for a couple of weeks, and you and I, and when we left, it was dry.
Dry.
Very little rain.
You were worried about your garden. Every
Yeah,
morning you were
very
getting up
worried.
at 6 in the
Yeah.
morning to go water it. You were
course, yeah.
stressing out. You were like, I'm going to come home. It's all going to be dead.
And then.
And then we
Yeah.
came home, it was like a jungle. Well, we have zucchini plants and eggplants, and I'm telling you, it was almost scary because the zucchinis got so big, they just looked unnatural.
I
It
know,
looked,
yeah,
they were just like,
I've
ugh.
never seen anything like that in my
No.
life. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, we had a bunch of tomatoes that were like red and orange and everything. Everything looked like it grew 3 times larger
Yeah.
in our presence than it did the previous 2 months when you were
Forget
trying to
about
grow everything.
No, I was happy to see that we did get some rain. And obviously, but there must have been some thunderstorms because the lights in the house went out. So, you know, that's usually typical of a heavy-duty thunderstorm when the electricity goes out for a few minutes or half an hour or whatever. But
Yeah.
nice to be back.
Yeah, I felt a little traumatized too when I came back because I looked at the grass and I literally cut it like almost like the day before we left. And the previous month, I mean, I hardly even had to cut it because it was like wasn't growing. And I came back and it was so long. I'm like, oh man, look at all this grass I gotta cut.
Welcome back, Michael.
Welcome back.
Got some work to do.
I know.
But no, yeah, it's going to be a good show. You know, we have Miguel Corradin from Craddock Serious Insurance, and he's got Vanessa Mendoza with him.
Special guest.
Exactly, special guest, and we'll talk to her about her background and where she came from, which is a very interesting story. So it'll be wonderful to hear, and we can talk a little bit to Miguel too about his background because I'm not sure we ever touched upon.
No, I don't think we have. Yeah, and Miguel's got an interesting story too because he was just sharing it with us briefly. So
So that'll be good, and you know, and we can, and then if we got some time, I got some things to talk about on finance. Some things that are like, you know, it's just mind-boggling. Sometimes when you just dig deep into what's happened in the market, you go, wow. I mean, it never occurred to me that is what's fueling this or causing that, and you know, I got some interesting data.
so even on vacation, you were still working, huh?
Well, you know, as you know, well, actually, I've been back for a couple of days, so I'm working a couple of days back.
Well, I wasn't sure. Maybe on the airplane you did some research. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I read. I mean, that's the good thing about the phones is that you can read a lot of research on the phone, so you keep up with what's going on.
Yeah. Well, there's always 2 plane rides. The one there, in which case you have to sleep because it's a red eye. Which
try.
Well, you try to sleep, yeah. So you maybe get like an hour or 2 in, and then on the one back is a little more enjoyable because it's like. It's not really a red eye, so you can sleep, but you also have the option of actually reading. And,
Reading and stuff. Although I
Exactly.
think I watched a couple of movies too.
Yeah, you watch a
Well,
bunch.
because 10 hours. I mean, after a while, even through my phone, I ran out of things to read,
Yeah.
and I didn't bring anything extra.
I think the only person who clips you a movie watch is either Alex, who literally sometimes will come out and be like, I watched like these 5 movies. I'm like, how did you watch 5 movies? Like, after like the second movie at McDonald's, like, I can't watch any more movies on this little screen. This is like, you know, I'll take a nap or read or listen to music, something, but.
All right. Quiet on set.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Today Mañana. I'm Michael. Very happy to be joined by Xavier here
Good
today.
morning, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Fantastic. Very
Yeah.
good. Yeah. As you know, it's sunny, so
Exactly.
sunny day makes me happy.
I know, but I can't trust these sunny days because, you know, yesterday I looked and I was like, oh, 2% chance of rain. You know, maybe when I get back home, I'll try to take a swim. So that I forget it. It's like in the afternoon, pouring thunderstorm for
Yeah,
like.
and none of that. It just felt like it was, because even at work, it was just, I'm looking out the window, it's like, it felt like it was sunny everywhere except for where we were. It's just like pouring and pouring. We drove home, it's still pouring. It's like,
Well, and then it had that moment. I don't know if you ever noticed, like there's like a thunderstorm or rain, whichever, right? But it feels like the clouds breaking right on top of you because it's like it's sunny and you're like, oh, the sun's out, and then it's like dumping rain, and I'm like, it's pouring. Like it's like, do I go out? I mean, it's like, but it was like usually maybe that lasts for 5 minutes. It felt like it lasted like for half an hour.
No, exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah, it took a lot longer than typical.
So I don't trust these sunny days anymore. It's at this
Well, in
point.
the morning is sunny.
Well, in the morning, so
Really?
yeah, I know, but I don't trust them. It's like not a cloud in the sky, and then like 3 hours later, you see black coming at you. You're like, what the heck? You know?
Virginia.
That's Virginia, I know, it truly is. But as always, we are happy to be presented by Emergent Financial Services, powered by Craddock Sirius Insurance, Meticio Realty, and FABA, Forward Adelante, the premier Latino networking group in Virginia.
And don't forget to like and share. And if you want, you can even subscribe.
Subscribe. Man, we did all the hard part already. We nailed that.
That's my hard part.
You know, we came back and we didn't miss a beat, huh?
Miss a beat, that's right.
You ready to kind of just jump
Well, yeah,
into our
because
two
we got,
wonderful
you know,
guests?
We got two great guests here with us, sitting next to us. We have Miguel Corradin and Vanessa Mendoza from Craddock Sirius Insurance, and it'd be nice to chat with them. Vanessa is literally, I guess, brand new, and we can certainly ask Miguel about how long she's been with them, working with them, and then we'll ask Vanessa a little bit about her history, her story, which is an interesting story. And then, as we mentioned before,
Well, don't spoil it all. You're kind of spoiling all the questions we're going to ask. Let's just introduce them and then ask them.
okay, you introduce her.
Well, we are very happy to be joined by Miguel Corradin from Craddock Sirius Insurance, as well as Vanessa Mendoza. Thank you both for coming on.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Javier. It's always a pleasure being in the show. We're so grateful, for being here and telling all these great stories and, great advice always for, our customers, future customers, or people, especially in the entrepreneur world, which is an extreme sport, I would say.
That's a wonderful way to phrase it, considering the Olympics is on. Another Olympic sport you
yeah,
add, sure.
Yeah, it's tough. But thank you for having us today.
No, thank you for coming on. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
So Miguel, I don't know if you want to introduce Vanessa to us, and then we can ask Vanessa some questions, and I know you want me to ask them in Spanish since she's here just a few months, right?
Of course, yeah. Well, Vanessa Mendoza, she's our new team member. She's amazing. She's fabulous. She's done great job for being less than a year. She's got 8 months, right? 8 months so far. And it feels like we have her quite a few more years to us, so we are grateful to have her in our team. She's still learning a lot of things, this is in the insurance world, this is like another universe.
Sure.
And it's so much to learn, every day. Even us who has more experience, I guess you can never learn enough. It's always something to learn.
Well, and it's not just that. There's changes, right? So I mean, every time you look around, there's something new, either some rule or regulation or some new type of insurance product or financial product or whatever it may be. And so you have to stay on top of that, really, as insurance agents or financial advisors, to say what's new, what's going on, what can we then provide to our customers that might help them out.
Yeah, you're 100% correct on that one. The world is changing so certainly technology, everything is just changing all the time. It's like the stock market,
Yeah.
It changes every day. Something new is coming up.
It's interesting you say about technology, right? Because as we were traveling, I realized that so many people do everything through their phone. Like even now, the passports, right? In some cases, people had all their passport information on their phone. So when you got up, you could just go to a kiosk and just put your phone in there. Then it takes your picture, and if everything matches, you're off and going, as opposed to taking your passport, you bring it to the agent. And so I mean, the world is technology changes, and so even as that happens, we as advisors or agents or whatever it may be have to change with it, because a lot of our customers, especially on the younger side, they want to look at their phone and say, okay, what's the return of my portfolio, or what's happening? And it's like, really? Wow, you got that on your phone?
I know. It's kind of scary too, with begs the question, what's the next step?
I know.
Are we gonna have a chip inside our brain
Oh, please.
here, like a scan,
Not me.
like a barcode? But I mean, weird things are coming in the near future. Hopefully, we don't go that too extreme on that.
Mm-hmm.
But
I agree. But let me. I know we have Vanessa Mendoza here, and I'll ask her a few questions in Spanish because, like I said, Vanessa just came here, right, to the United States. What, about less than a year ago, right? And she's from Venezuela, so I'd love to invite her to ask her a couple of questions. Pero buenos días, Vanessa, ¿cómo está?
Buenos días, Javier. Muy bien, gracias.
Muchas gracias por venir y estamos hablando diciendo que usted hace poco que vino de Venezuela.
Así
y
es.
quizás nos puede dar un poco sobre su trayecto de Venezuela aquí, cómo pasó, qué es lo que hacía en Venezuela y cómo es que conoció a Miguel, al gran Miguel.
Ok. Bueno, buenos días. Gracias por la invitación, por el espacio. Bueno, como iniciamos, mi nombre es Vanessa Mendoza, soy venezolana. Tengo apenas un año y pocos meses acá en Charlottesville. Llegué directo de Venezuela. Tuve la oportunidad de ser recibida acá por muy buenos amigos. Y conocí a Miguel haciéndome su cliente, ¿no? Inicialmente. Y después tuve la oportunidad de aplicar y gracias a Dios súper complacida y agradecida de ser parte de su equipo, de la agencia. Llegué directamente de Venezuela. Ya había tenido la oportunidad de desarrollarme en el área de seguros en mi país.
Ah, está bien.
Sí, allí viene un poco de la afinidad con el trabajo acá. Apoyando a la agencia, creciendo, como dice Miguel, la carrera de seguros es una universidad donde todos los días se aprende algo distinto. Tratamos de apoyar a nuestros clientes en satisfacer de la mejor manera las necesidades que ellos tienen en el área de seguros. Y
dígame, en Venezuela, ¿los tipos de seguros que hay allí son similares aquí o iba a decir la bolsa porque está pensando en market, o es diferente las clases de seguros?
Sí, los productos son básicamente lo mismo, seguros personales, de propiedades. Cambia un poco la regulación, pero como el sentido es el mismo de las condiciones con las que se manejan las pólizas del área de seguros.
Sí. Así que por lo menos en ese espacio ya tenía un poco de experiencia,
sí,
¿no?
Correcto.
Porque yo decía, en poco tiempo que Miguel me dijo tantas buenas cosas de usted, digo, es increíble que alguien aprenda tan rápidamente todo lo seguro, pero ahora veo que ya tenía la experiencia por lo menos de Venezuela.
Sí, claro. Bueno, aquí tuve que prepararme para obtener mi primera licencia. Estuve varios meses estudiando. Pero bueno, gracias a Dios ya la tengo.
¿Y el examen era en inglés o en español?
En inglés.
Así que tuvo que aprender inglés.
Sí, estudiar en inglés.
Estudiar inglés y después tomar el examen en inglés.
Así es. 150 preguntas.
Lo mejor de todo, Javier y Michael, es que ella lo pasó en la primera
vez.
En la primera vez. Y eso es, la verdad que
Gracias.
muy aplaudible porque es un examen difícil, no es un examen fácil, es más, hay personas que son nativos acá, hablan inglés y le han tomado varias veces pasarlo. Así que estamos muy orgullosos de Vanessa porque no todo el tiempo se pasa un examen de este tipo, así con todas estas preguntas y todo este contenido que pareciera otro idioma. En la primera vez. Así que quería resaltar eso porque no es fácil este examen.
So just to kind of recap, so those that don't speak Spanish, but Vanessa came here from Venezuela. She's been here a little less than a year. She did have some experience in insurance in Venezuela. But she came here. She met Miguel, and she, they were looking for an agent, so she applied, and she took the exam, which is in English, right? And remember, Vanessa doesn't speak English, didn't read English at that point, so she had to learn English, take the exam, and she passed it the first time, which is what Miguel said, which is amazing because, like Miguel said, there are people that literally live here, speak the language, and it takes them 2 or 3 times before they can pass that exam. So, that's a pretty amazing story, just right there. The desire to surpass, all those obstacles that one may have, just because of language barriers or whatever it may be. So, muy bien hecho, muy bien hecho.
Gracias.
Pero también tengo entendido que también en otra parte de Vanessa es que le gusta, tiene una parte artística, ¿no? Quizás me puede decir un poco de lo que le gusta hacer.
Yo diría artística y muy rica también.
Sabrosa.
Sabrosa esa, sabrosa.
Sí, bueno, como conversábamos antes del programa, a la par de mi desarrollo profesional, pues estuve desarrollando lo que para mí era como un liberar un poco de las presiones laborales, y estuve desarrollándome en el área de la repostería artística, la cual más allá se convirtió en otra profesión y en mi sustento por muchos años en mi país. Bueno, es algo que me encanta hacer, claro. Desarrollar postres y todo lo que es el área artística, los cakes artísticos y sabrosos sobre todo.
Es una de mis favoritas palabras en español, postre.
En inglés también.
En inglés también.
Sí.
I'm with you on that one, yeah.
Así es.
Yo lo primero que hago cuando voy a un país diferente, miro a ver qué clase de postres tienen y trato de probar los postres de allí para ver si me gustan. Naturalmente siempre los postres cubanos son mis favoritos, pero siempre trato. Cubanos, digo, quizás son iguales en muchos lugares, ¿no? El flan, naturalmente, es uno de mis favoritos, pero casi todo el mundo hace flan. No tan bueno como los cubanos, pero lo hacen.
¿Pero te gustan los postres que son muy dulces?
Dulces, sí.
Dulces, sí.
Con merengue. El merengue, me encanta el merengue.
Babao.
El babao, sí. Eso es italiano, pero
Wow,
sí.
okay.
¿Probaste los de Italia, los de Sicilia cuando
Entonces,
fuiste a Italia hace poco?
Sicilia ahí tiene un dulce que parece, vamos a decir, es un pastel flojo donde ponen ron y con azúcar, ¿no? Es un almíbar de ron y azúcar.
I really like it, ya me gusta.
Sí, y lo comes así y es exquisito. Es mi favorito dulce de Sicilia. Y Sicilia tiene un montón de postres buenos, pero eso es mi favorito.
Ok, qué bueno, Juan. Ya lo probaremos cuando vaya para allá.
Sin duda, tienen que probarlo. Pero bueno, pues, like Vanessa was saying, so while she was in Venezuela, one of the things that she did to relieve the pressure of her job, right? And then obviously, I understand that after COVID and after what happened in Venezuela back then, the insurance business was really struggling. So she started baking cakes and decorating them, so very artistically, and she did that for about 8 to 10 years. So she not only has a very mathematical and business mind for insurance, but also she has that other side where it's artistic and as everybody knows in the show already, touches my heart is cakes and sweets and anything that has sugar. And if it's got a little, rum in it, I'll take it too.
And we know why Miguel was so happy Vanessa was there. All those cakes, he was like, "Oh, rico."
I guess my question is, so
Did you notice that?
Wait a minute. So when people buy insurance from Vanessa, do they also get a cake?
Yeah, that's in the works. That's in the works. Yeah. The hook, so we can.
So tell me, it's interesting that we talked about Vanessa, right, her background. And I realized we've never actually, learned about your background, because I know you were born in Colombia, but, you weren't raised in Colombia, right?
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, most people think I'm from Venezuela because I have I guess, the Venezuelan accent and all that. Although I think I kind of lost a lot of it because I've been here for so many years. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I was born in Colombia in 1979.
Okay.
At the time, I think Colombia, was going through really a hard time. Ironically, everything at that time was, beautiful in Venezuela. Back then in Colombia was the opposite. I say ironically because right now Venezuela is going through a really scary and tough situation,
Right.
Socially, economically, and everything, any sense that you want to see it. But back then, in Colombia, it was all about the narcos and, all bombings every day, I guess. And then my mom, she decided to move on to Venezuela. And that's why I guess it probably was anywhere between 84, 85. I think that's when we arrived in Venezuela. And ever since, I've been living my life in Venezuela until I was about 21 years old. That's when I moved to the States.
Oh.
So I came here, ironically, I came here to study English, which, that was the first goal. I accomplished that, and then I went to the university. The goal was to, get my bachelor's degree, which I did, but the main goal was to come back to Venezuela, But little did we know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Miguel,
that.
when you got to the U.S., did you come straight to Charlottesville? Or
No. That's a good question. Yeah, I first, when I first came to the United States, I went to Tampa, Florida.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to go. I guess at the time, my mom didn't want to take me to Miami, or where most people go, just because nobody speak English there. So I guess the main idea was to learn English, which all I knew how to say was hi, how are you? My name is Miguel, and that's it. I didn't know a word of English. So it was tough at the beginning. Coming here, learning a new culture, language, everything. It wasn't easy. I guess the first few months it was nice, everything was new, but after 6 months, I think reality, sets in, and and it was even harder when I have to go to the university, because I have to, I think I knew how. I think I thought I knew a little bit of English until I went straight to the university, and then it hits me right there. The first year was really tough for me. I was about to drop out, but thanks to my mom, she kept, she was resilient, and I by nature, I'm a fighter, I'm a doer. I like, whatever it takes, I'm gonna have to do it. I'm gonna have to make it, So after the first 2 years, things got better in the university, and I was able to graduate in 2004.
Fantastic. So just two quick questions out of curiosity. First of all, when you left Colombia to go to Venezuela, did your mother know anybody in Venezuela, or you just
No, nobody.
She just said, boom, we're going to Venezuela.
That's correct, yeah.
Wow.
And I'm very, I always been proud of my mom, because, it was just my mom and I. She did everything that she could at the time, to raise me. It was really, really, I can't imagine some days it was probably really, really tough for her. So, I want to say that my mom, she's my hero. I'm really proud of her. I'm really proud of single women that, have to raise their sons alone. I lived through that. So I know how difficult this could be. Especially going to another country, not knowing anybody, not having a job, not having nothing. It is hard. It was hard, but life is always beautiful because God put angels in your life, whether if it's for one day, a few weeks, a few months, or years. So there is always, and I believe, always angels, not in the form of angels, but in the form
yeah.
of people.
People, yes,
Good
yeah.
people, that
Yeah.
they come to your life and, accomplish a purpose and for better or worse, and then, you start, making, scaling on your life,
Yeah. So now, when you came to America, did your mom come with you, or did she stay in Venezuela?
No, it was just me.
Just you?
Yeah,
And
myself.
is your mom still in Venezuela? Or
She had to stay there because at the time she had she had like a photo shop at the time. She has her own business, and she just couldn't leave.
Right.
And that was another hard time for me because it was the first time that I was actually going away from home.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. It's you either do it and make it happen, or or don't. So.
And how did you get into the insurance business?
Well, that's fine. It's in 2004 I graduated. I think I came here at the time, Charlottesville. I got to know, well, I knew a friend from home already. His name was Carlos Terran. It was good family, good people. We knew even from Venezuela. And at the time, he was working for a newspaper, like a Latino newspaper in the time. So that's how I transitioned from, Tampa to Virginia, move on to that, the newspaper business, if you want to call it that way. And then I spent like maybe 2 years there and went to another local newspaper business in town, in Charlottesville. I guess everybody knows the Civil Weekly. So I spent quite a few years there, and then is when I realized, after 7 or 8 years that I, needed to have a big change in my life. And then, we just had the opportunity to work in an insurance company. And that's how I became, an agent. But I think it wasn't enough for me because I think I wanted more,
Yeah.
And then after so many years working in the insurance, I decided to start my own agency, which is what I say before. It is, going on yourself. It is one of the most difficult things you can do in your life because it's not easy, It is, like we say before, it's an extreme sport, You gotta wear many hats at the beginning, and it's not for everybody. The high pressure you have to keep here is a lot, at least for the first few years, because you don't have an employer who is paying you every 2 weeks. If you don't move, you don't get paid.
Right.
So I have, everything was depending on me. But after having some jobs, some difficult jobs prior to getting into the insurance, or even during my insurance experience in the first few years, it gave me that push that I needed to do my own thing, and here we are, So it is always if you dream it, you can make it possible.
I remember once, early on when we started the show, and we were talking about dreams, and you said something that I never forget, right? And you said, dream big, don't just dream small, dream big,
Yeah.
right? Because the feeling is, especially when you have your own business, when you want to start your own business, right? There's so many challenges, and, things don't always go the way you think they're going to go. And as you said, you no longer have somebody paying you on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis. You have to get clients in order for them to pay, right?
Yeah.
And you want to dream big because when you dream big, then you push yourself to do more, to really challenge yourself to say, yes, I can do this, yes, I can do that. And I know that you said that once, and you said it actually in Spanish. But I didn't know your history, and it's a very interesting history. But you can see where your spirit comes. I mean, obviously, your mom right off the bat said, "We can't survive in Colombia. we got to move, right? So right then and there's that entrepreneurial spirit of saying, we got to move, we got to create a new life for ourselves. She did that, you learn from that, now you come to America where it's more challenging because at least from Colombia to Venezuela, the language is the same. Maybe the accent's a little different, but the language is the same. Then you come here, it's like, I gotta learn English, and like, it might seem easy, but it's like, it's English and Spanish, and they're not really very compatible at first. So
Yeah, and I'm not sure people realize the difficulty that Miguel and Vanessa had to go through because, I mean, it's not just that they're taking school, taking exams in another language. I mean, imagine putting yourself in a situation where you're just going to France, and it's like, yeah, here's a test that you have to pass, and it's like, and it's all in French. Like, it's mind-boggling. I can't even fathom, like, understanding, like, anything.
Yeah. I mean,
So it's
you
truly
must be there with the
incredible.
dictionary every other word. Oh, okay, that's what
But
that
it's not even
means.
just dictionary; it's also conjugations
Sure.
too. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
no, of
not
course.
really that simple. You
Yeah.
have to. I mean, let's be honest. When you're trying to answer a question on exam, I mean, even sometimes in English, when I speak English, I'm like, what is the question trying to ask me here? Because it's like they're
They're trying
always
to trick me. I know
you.
they're trying to trick me.
And I can't even imagine trying to take an exam in a language I'm not comfortable in with questions that are trying to trick me, and then being able to get the right answer. I probably would have just been circling B every time. You know, I just say, okay, hopefully the B
Mini,
showed up
mini,
70% of the time.
Yeah, and and that's correct. It's so many things that you have to you have to get out of your comfort zone. Because dreaming big is not enough. You have to get out of your comfort zone, and for that, I gotta thank a big thanks to my wife Carolina, because before I even started my own business, she was the one to push me a little further, so that I can see the bigger vision, and we say the business or the idea was born at the beach. One day we were talking, and then my wife was like, I believe in you, like you can do this. We just we gotta put some action on it, and then we made it happen, because it's not just me, my wife is a big contributor of that, and without her I probably wouldn't be here,
Is she listening to the show? Is this what's happening?
I hope she's listening to the show. But it is so many things, but dream big is one of them, definitely. Then get out of your comfort zone. I had a really well-paying job, almost 60,000 before. And these are the decisions you gotta make in your life. If you want to go to the next level, you have to be willing to sacrifice, whatever you need to sacrifice to move on to the next level. And one day I'm here with this, nice salary. The next day I'm done.
Yeah.
And then you have maybe 2 or 3 months worth of savings. That you don't know if that's going to be enough. You don't even know if you're going to make it, which is the scary part, But I guess in my mind, I'm always all or nothing, and that's how you want to think about it. You want to visualize, dream big, see the results before they happen, because if you don't do that, then that means you don't believe in yourself. And if you don't believe in yourself, it is hard for you to make it.
Yeah.
So you have to believe in yourself before you even make it. It is very important, that step.
Yeah, it's interesting. Once I was, when I worked for a different firm, they would have people that would inspire you and talk to you. And so one of the things that I remember well also was that they mentioned when you set goals, right? They said, set goals, and you don't want to set goals that are very easy to achieve, right? Because they're small. And you don't want to set goals that are so difficult to achieve, right? Because then it's like you never achieve them. But you got to set goals that are, they challenge you to work a little more, work a little harder, or like you said, get out of that comfort zone, right? And I always remember that they will make you write down what are your goals for the next quarter, right? And at first, it's like, I put my goals in, it's like, I remember my boss saying, I think you did that in about a month, so I think you need to really push a little harder. But because at first it's like I don't want to fail my goals, right? But then little by little I realized that yes, because then once you achieve your goal, you sit back and say, okay, I did it, right? But when you have your own business, it doesn't work that way.
No.
You can't just say I'm done. You gotta get those goals, but you gotta keep pushing more and more because in like you said, somebody's not paying your paycheck, and anything can happen in a small business. So you have to make sure that you prepare for whatever can happen, so that you have to push yourself a little harder to say, I have to work a little harder every single day because this is my business, right? And this business can disappear like this,
That's true. That's true. I heard. I follow a couple of life and business coaches, and I remember one of them saying, if you are comfortable, something's wrong. Like, I mean, everything is fine when you are uncomfortable, because I think that's a good sign. But the moment in your business, or whether it's not a business in your life, if something is too comfortable, something might be wrong. You probably want to shake yourself a little bit and get out of your comfort zone and see what's going on, because I think that's when true change happens. So, to become successful, it doesn't happen in the greatest moments in your life. Success, I believe, it happens in the worst moments in your life, when you have to make a decision that either is going to change your life for better or for worse. And that's when true change, I think, happens. Yeah.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Y Vanessa, una pregunta. Ahora que está aquí en los Estados Unidos, el inglés, ¿usted sabía hablar un poquito en inglés en Venezuela o ha tenido que aprender cuando vino aquí?
Sí, bueno, me ha tocado aprender acá.
Sin duda.
Entiendo, bueno, creo que a la mayoría de las personas les sucede así. Entiendo más yo creo que es por un tema de miedo, que a uno le cuesta soltarse. Sí. Pero bueno, es una de las metas y esa fue una de las razones por la que también, así como Miguel, escogí que este fuese mi lugar donde llegar, Virginia, Charlottesville, para ayudarme mejor con el idioma, porque definitivamente llegar a este país, pues te debes adaptar, obviamente, adecuarte a lo que es su idioma, sus costumbres, y es una de las primeras metas más importantes para mí.
Claro.
Uh-huh.
Sí,
Estamos trabajando en eso.
Entonces, cuando estamos hablando aquí,
Yo
entienda,
sí.
pero empezar a hablar es lo más
Sí.
difícil. Es así siempre el problema de las lenguas. Hablar es siempre lo más difícil.
Sí.
I tell Vanessa, like I tell my kids, I always tell my kids, you gotta face your fears.
Yeah.
There's no shortcut. There's one at a time.
Yeah.
One at a time.
I feel like in life, one way or another, you have to face them. It's either now or later on, but you can't avoid it.
No.
There's like a famous Chinese proverb, one often meets his destiny on the road he takes to avoid it. So it's kind of like that funny
Yeah.
thing.
That's a
That's
good
like
one.
you either
That's a
have
good
to
one.
face it now, or if you still try to avoid it, you're still going to have to face
That's
it.
a good
One
one.
way or another.
Yeah, because fears don't go away until you. I mean, they'll always be there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess people fool themselves by thinking the fear is gone, but as soon as that situation happens, that is provoking the fear, fear just come right back, like a shadow from the darkness, and it's here I am, but that's where you gotta make the decision, do I face this fear? And believe it or not, sometimes it's more the fear factor than the challenge of overcoming that fear. And once people realize that it wasn't that bad, they can say, oh wow, well, let's move on to the next one, because everybody has fears, we're not gods. You have fears, I have fears, Vanessa has fears, maybe different from mine, but at the end of the day, a fear is a fear.
Right.
And but that is the boundary, that's the limit, that's what separates you from being a successful person in anything that you want to do or not.
Yeah, and not only that, sometimes you push yourself. You reach that moment where you say to yourself, "I really don't want to do this. Or I don't want to talk to that person, or whatever it may be," but you have to, right? And you push yourself. And the beautiful thing is, after you do it, you're re-energized because you realize I just did something that was very difficult that I didn't want to do. You did it, you accomplished it, and now it's like I can go forward. I can now do other things that I didn't think I could do because of that.
Yeah, I think it's a relief once you move on. But like I tell my kids, and sometimes people, I mean, some of these fears, as insignificant as they could be, it can create a big, hole. I mean, a big, I want to say, challenge for people. I tell my kids, go with the fear, grab the fear with your hands. Here we go. We'll go together. We'll move on. We'll get over you, and then we'll move on to the next fear. That's how we do it, one at a time.
Yeah.
One at a time. Yeah.
That's the way it is. Yeah.
Beautifully said. Well, Miguel, Vanessa, era un placer to have you both on today. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. It was really great.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And it's always a pleasure being here. And,
Igualmente y mucha suerte.
Gracias. Gracias.
Ya sé
Gracias
que
a
es
todos.
difícil trabajar con Miguel, pero bueno, alguien tiene que hacerlo, ¿no?
Alguien tiene que comerse los cakes, las tortas, ¿no?
Well, next time we can have Vanessa on, she could bring some
I think so, yes.
y pasteles.
Viene con un pastel y probaba el pastel.
Well, I don't know if they're gonna make it here.
We'll only invite Vanessa then.
Thank you for having us.
No, thank you both for coming.
Thank you so much.
All right, so as we transition here, I know you had some finance topics you wanted to talk about. So yeah, I mean, I think the first one was about the stock market. I know it's been, maybe up like 12% so far this year. I mean, it's been pretty great. And I know you had some thoughts about that, like on the future of the stock market going forward.
Yeah, so it wasn't, so, sometimes you got to dig deep, right? And so you've heard people say, the stock market's doing really well, everything's doing well. And then once in a while you take a step back and say, how well is the whole stock market doing, right? And so what we did was we took a look at the S&P 500, right? And we said, what has fueled the S&P 500 this year? And when you look at it, basically, the Magnificent Seven, those 7 stocks, right, have really been the ones the ones that have generated most of the returns of the S&P 500. So think of it, the S&P 500 is up, I think it was up through the end of July, I think about 16.5%. I know I wrote it down somewhere, right? So that's that's really a great year, right? So, I mean, if it stays
that would be
way,
a great 2 years.
Yeah, so so from that perspective, that's a great year. But when you look at the top 7 stocks of the S&P 500, they generated 61% of that return. So what does that mean? So if you take away those 7 stocks from the S&P 500, the return of the S&P 500 is 8.2, 8.3%, something like that. That's an enormous amount, right? If you take NVIDIA is the one that really also
I was about to say NVIDIA's
fueled, right? I mean, that was about 30% of the S&P 500, right? So if you take away NVIDIA, I think that was about 12.5% that the index would have been up, right? So, because when you look at it, you say, well, wait a minute, small stocks are struggling. They're generating about 12.2%. Growth stocks have done very well. Well, have they? Not really. It's just that those 7 stocks are all kind of growth stocks, so they fuel the growth market. And so what I did was I said, okay, these stocks are in the top 10 of the S&P 500. So we went back and we looked at how often does that happen? In other words, how often, to get to the top 10, obviously you have to have great returns, right? Because you're moving from somewhere in the S&P 500.
Excuse me for interrupting. Is NVIDIA now in the top 10 or not?
Yes.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Oh, yeah, big time, yes. Yeah. So in order to become big enough to be the top 10 stocks of the S&P 500 means that you have to have very good returns. And what they've shown is that 3 years prior to becoming the top 10 in the S&P 500, your return is about 25% greater than everybody else, right? And thereafter, that's where the challenge becomes, right? Because nobody can grow at that clip forever, right? And thereafter, so like the 10 years after you become the top 10, the amount that you grow decreases substantially over time, and quite large versus the S&P 500. So the reason I say this is that because people sometimes fall in love with, yes, these are the 7 stocks, and the problem is that sometimes the moms and the pops out there is like, all right, NVIDIA, what is it, the Meta, what else is it, Tesla, and they go out and buy it. Well, the game is literally over by that time, right? Because once you hit the top 10, doesn't mean that they can't grow, but they're not growing to the same magnitude as they did. And here's a perfect example. For example, I went back and I said, let me think of a stock that was a top 10 and is no longer a top 10, even though it's at the top 20. Exxon. So Exxon, from September 30, 2002 to December 31, 2007, had an annual return of 25%, right? 25%, that's huge, right? From 2007 to today, to the end of this month, its annual return is 5%. So you can see how it just catapulted to the top.
And that's probably below the average stock market.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The average stock market, the S&P 500 during that time period was about 10.4%. So it's half. So again, the issue is we always talk about diversification, right? And the important thing about diversification is that if you diversify, you will have in your portfolio these stocks, right? Mm-hmm. And it's important to have them. But the idea of saying, these are the stocks that I want to own in my portfolio because they've done so well, this is not the time to be saying, I want these stocks. And I'm not saying that NVIDIA can't go up another, it's up over 100% this year, right? 130, 140, I don't know exactly the number, right? So it's had an outrageous year. So, and it doesn't mean it can't continue to go up, but sooner or later, these companies cannot continue to generate those kind of projective growth that we've had, right, over the last 3 to 5 years. It can't continue on over the next 10 years. So you have to make sure that if you want to participate in stocks, you really have to have a well-diversified portfolio. And I say that from the perspective that a lot of people, and we see that all the time, they come and they have 12 mutual funds or 12 ETFs, right? And I say, why do we have these 12 ETFs? I don't know, it's really, that's kind of what the computer generated. And you start to dig deep and you see every single one or the majority of these ETFs have 2 or 3 or all of these 7 stocks. Mm-hmm. So you now have a portfolio where you don't have a market weighting in these stocks. You are way overweight in these particular stocks. Mm-hmm. So it's done well, but you can't continue like that because whatever goes up can also come down. And back in 2022, when the market was down, these stocks got crushed. So they were down more than the stock market. So just as much as they can go up and do very well, they can also crash very easily. So, I kind of did that because I wanted to get a feel for, all right, what happens once you become such a big stock? You are a big piece of that index, and you live and die by those stocks, whether you like it or not. But the important thing is just make sure that the balance of your portfolio isn't heavily weighted in those particular stocks by saying, oh, I like that mutual fund also, I like that ETF also. Well, take a look what's in there.
Yes, I mean, we've seen clients actually get a little confused by that because they think they have a diversified portfolio because they say, well, I have different ETFs and mutual funds. But as you pointed out, sometimes you look at exactly what these ETFs and mutual funds are invested in, you realize it's all the same thing. So in reality, you're hardly diversified at all.
Yeah.
It just only looks like that on the surface.
Yeah, and I remember, one particular, client came in and he gave us what his portfolio looked like. And after we did the study, we realized that 3 of his stocks represented almost 45% of his portfolio. And I said, here we are. And he said, that doesn't make any sense. And exactly. And the point is, each one of these ETFs owns that stock in a large part, right? Because the problem is, there are different type of ETFs. Right? There are index-based ETFs, which means that if there's the S&P 500, they will own the same percentage of each particular stock that's in the S&P 500. So you have an index weighting, right, which is a market weight, let's call it, right? And then there are ETFs that say, no, we can do a better job. But to do a better job, you have to basically make one large decision. Do I want NVIDIA in my portfolio? Do I want Apple in my portfolio? Do I want Tesla in my portfolio? Do I want, Made in my portfolio? Those are big decisions, because if you say no, you're making a big bet against the market. So what do? They all put them in their portfolio. So they put them in their portfolio, but since they don't then have the rest of the 494 stocks that would comprise the S&P 500, they might have like 50. Those 4 stocks now represent about 40-50% of that ETF. That's a huge weighting, right? So again, may do very well, but from a total perspective of your old portfolio, you have to be careful what you have, because going forward, if you don't diversify, your returns are going to be like the Exxon. You're going to be getting 5-6% return when the markets are up 10%. So that's what I tell people, is like, you really have to think about that, and you can't fall in love with a handful of stocks and say, these are it. These are the ones that are really going to do well, because over time, once they've done their big jump, there's a good chance that they're not going to be the best performance going forward. So
That's interesting. I did not know that.
yeah, so I just, it's one of those things that I like looking at, and once in a while when I see that, I said, let me dig deep a little here, because, NVIDIA is the one that forced me to do that, because as I said, this thing is just going through the roof. It is $1 trillion company, right? And I'm saying, how can it continue to grow at this pace? Can it, right? And I said, let me see what impact this had. And so I went there, I did the Magnificent Seven, the top 5, and the numbers is just outrageous. Like I said, you take out NVIDIA, that's the S&P 500 is a 12.5% return, which is the same as small caps. So in reality, it's not like the S&P has done a great job. It's just these stocks, this one stock.
Well, it's still gone up.
Yes, sure.
Just not quite as. Obviously, NVIDIA has pushed it.
Yeah. But my point is, if there's 500 stocks in the S&P 500 and NVIDIA is one of them, and it itself caused the index to go from 12.5 to 16, the other 499 stocks were no better than small cap stocks, is what I'm saying. So
I understand.
again,
Okay.
so I'm saying it's good to have a diversification for that reason, right? Because there's no reason why, whether it be next year or the year after, small caps may do very, very well. And then if you're not in them, you're not going to perform. You're not going to participate in that run up in whatever sector that is. So, but anyway, it's just one of those things that I was looking at, and I said, probably something. I was obviously it was more for us to discuss, but I didn't get a chance to discuss it with your 2 brothers, because they're having.
We didn't need their input anyway, be honest.
But anyway, that was my 2 cents worth.
That was
there.
your 2 cents worth. Well, no, thank you for that. You even had all the numbers. I didn't even see you get those numbers that morning. You must have been.
This morning I was actually,
Yeah, you
because
must have
I said I need to get these numbers in.
Yeah, I know.
and-
You wanted to
and
come
then-
out
and
with
then
all the
Like I
facts
said,
and
then
the
I was trying
stats.
to remember. Let me go back in history. What stock? And then just Exxon came to my head, because I remember very well. Let me see. And so I said, let me see when it kind of catapulted to the top, because at one time Exxon was the biggest.
Are you trying to warn people off from NVIDIA now?
No, not at all. It's people's choices, and I, we always talk about this, right? In other words, if it's for your retirement account, I think diversification is very important.
Yeah.
If you've got money on the side that you want to gamble with, and that's what I call gambling, right? In other words, gambling means I'm just going to buy something because I think it's going to go up, or somebody tell me it's going to go up. That's not research based,
Yeah.
right? Just like that. That's like somebody tells you something, say, okay, let me try it, right? And how many times have we had that? Somebody says, yeah, I know this small company, they're really good, they do this, they do that, it's just like going to double this year. And you say, oh, okay, I throw a couple of $1,000, before you know it, this thing went to zero. It's like, oh, well, there goes that, right? So all I'm saying is that you just have to, you can't sit here and say, wow, NVIDIA is really good, it went up, my God, that's great. Made is doing great, Tesla. You can't say, these are the stocks I want to buy now, because these stocks already have done extremely well, and whether they're going to continue in that same trajectory, the chances are pretty small that it's just not going to happen. I'm not saying it won't and it can't, right? I'm just saying that if you want to just gamble some money, by all means, right? But if you are thinking about your retirement portfolio or your investment portfolio, you got to sit back and say, is that where I want to go?
Interesting. All right, thank you for that, Pops.
You're welcome.
That was very informative.
Thank you.
So I guess it's time to end the show, huh? Is there anything
well,
else you want to talk about?
No. So, I think we're almost done here. So, yeah, there's other things, but we'll wait for next
Yeah,
week.
well, I mean, we could just go an extra hour. I don't know if Jerry minds.
I could. To be honest
That's
with
why. That's
But-
why I wasn't sure because there were other topics. I was like, I don't know. I feel if I add just one more topic, we're gonna hit 12 o'clock.
you. Yeah, I could keep going on some of these things.
I know.
Absolutely, yeah. But it's
No,
good.
but it was good to learn, and like I said, that kind of actually blew my mind a little bit. How once it kind of hit the top 10, the returns kind of
They begin to
yeah,
to
they
fail.
begin to
Yeah.
decrease. Yeah, so yeah.
I mean, historically, that's been the case. And again, that doesn't mean that
Yeah.
that any one or two can continue to have a couple of good years. But over the next 10 years, the chances are they can't continue to grow at the same pace as they had in the past,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they begin to reduce that growth pattern. And as a matter of fact,
And I guess that's why it's important to invest in, diversify into small stocks and growth stocks
Absolutely.
before they hit that point where they're big, I guess.
Yes,
the top
yes,
10.
exactly. And the other thing I wanted to just say interesting about Exxon was that out of that 5% return, 4% was actually dividend based. So
Oh,
that
wow.
1% is just growth, and 4% was their dividend, which again is
That's
good.
a pretty high
that's
dividend for an oil company, isn't it?
yeah, they pay a good dividend. Exxon's always
Okay.
paid. I mean, once they started get large,
Yeah.
so companies when they're small, they don't like to pay a dividend because they
Of
just
course.
want to obviously take all that money, keep it into the company, and continue to grow. Once they get to a certain point, in order to grab other investors, they begin to pay a dividend, and other investors come in because they like the dividend, right?
Yeah.
So
Like
Exxon
it,
was one
yeah.
of those. Yeah. So I
All
thought
right.
that was interesting too.
Well, that was a great show today, Pops. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for
Yeah, we
Miguel
had
and
wonderful
Vanessa.
guests, yes, Miguel and Vanessa.
It's just nice to hear, people's story. Once in a while, I mean, they're both in insurance, and they're wonderful, and they understand the insurance business very much. They have great products, and I know they've discussed it in the past. But once in a while, it's nice to hear, how they. How did they become insurance agents? And so when you ask them questions, how did you even get here, and you realize their life story, you go, wow, that's a story.
And the
that
obstacles that they overcome,
Yeah.
Vanessa coming here, having to take the insurance test
Yeah.
without really knowing English very well, and she passed in the first try.
That's
I didn't want to
amazing.
ask Miguel how long it took him to pass it because I didn't want to, But, I mean...
We'll ask him next time.
Yeah,
Hey, put him on the spot. No.
No, but then to hear Miguel's story, too, of,
Yeah.
everything
Which I
his
didn't
mom...
know. I mean, I know Miguel for years,
I
and
know.
didn't realize that he, how he went from Colombia to Venezuela,
Venezuela,
to Tampa,
You know?
Tampa to Charleston.
and
I
his
didn't
mom
know.
pushed him
Yeah.
to, watching out for his safety to take him to Venezuela, and
Yeah.
then pushing him when he was in school. Moms are important.
Yeah.
Hopefully Mama's watching. That's why I threw that out there. She's probably not watching. She's probably gonna be like, I didn't hear you say that.
I didn't know.
Hey, I was in the kitchen when
Let's get to when you said
she wasn't paying attention. But we're also going to have a great show next week. So
Yep.
next week we actually have Jess Sifazzari from Painted Orange and I think it says now the James Madison Museum of Orange. That sounds new. Yeah, I mean we've had Jess I think a couple times actually
Yes,
on the show.
yes.
So I wonder if that's the new thing. But yeah, she's going to be coming on the show again.
Next
and
week?
she's she's a great guest. So
Looking
that should be
forward to
fun. Yeah, I don't know what the combination is. Alex is going to be back. He's got to
He'll be
get
back.
on the show.
Yeah,
They've
he'll be
missed him.
back.
I could tell. They said I could tell Judas is looking at me. The viewing numbers are way down. They wanted Alex. No, but yeah, it should be a great show next week. I don't know. It could be Alex. Maybe we could get Nick on the show. I don't know. He hasn't shown up for a
Yeah,
while.
that's a challenge to get the guy.
I
He's
know.
good at getting guests, but getting
He
him on
is.
the show is always different.
But as always, we are happy to be presented by Emergent Financial Services, powered by Craddock Sirius Insurance, Matisse Young Realty, FABA. A big thank you, as always, to Jerry for having us here in this beautiful studio. Of course, a big thanks to Judah for, like Alex likes to say, make us all look good. Thank you, of course, to all our viewers who really, if they weren't here, it wouldn't be possible. I do apologize, too, in advance. Xavier and I are not... Well, I'm not on Facebook, and neither one of us is tech savvy, so there could have been viewer questions. I do apologize, because whenever Nick, Xavier, and I do the show, I don't know who's watching. I don't know who's asking questions. So I do apologize in advance. But Alex is usually really good at that. So when he's on the show, he can
Well,
do it. But-
usually, and also Nick in the background will send
Yes.
us a text if somebody, but he's...
Yeah, but I usually don't read his text anyway, because then after the show, it's like, this guy wanted the show. I'm like, oops. But thank you to all the viewers with your questions and watching the show and all your likes as well. I'm giving them a shout out because, I won't see your names till after the show, but thank you. And we look forward to seeing you next week, but until that time, hasta mañana.